Jessica's reflection in the polished metal of the ship's corridor made her turn away, as it always did. By Zalthari standards, she was hideous. Her scales were too pale, almost translucent in places, when they should have been a deep, prestigious violet. Her crest was small and asymmetrical, drooping to one side instead of standing proud. Her eyes, worst of all, were an unsettling amber color. When proper Zalthari eyes gleamed crimson or gold, she'd heard the whispers since childhood. Defective, malformed, unfortunate. Now, at 23 cycles old, she'd done what any outcast would do. She'd left. The Galactic Federation's diplomatic corps didn't care about Zalthari beauty standards. They only cared that she could translate 14 languages and navigate complex political situations. Her posting on the human diplomatic vessel Endeavor was supposed to be her fresh start. If only she could stop catching glimpses of herself in every reflective surface. "Morning, Jessica." She flinched at the cheerful voice. Jack Sullivan, the human cultural liaison, bounded down the corridor with his characteristic energy. Humans were still new to the Federation, barely 50 years since first contact, and they approached everything with an enthusiasm that bewildered other species. "Good morning, Liaison Sullivan," Jessica replied formally, keeping her face turned slightly away. "Jack, just Jack, remember?" He fell into step beside her, completely unbothered by her coldness. He'd been trying to befriend her for 3 weeks now. "You heading to the observation deck?" "I have reports to file. Reports can wait. You've got to see this binary star system we're passing. The light hits both suns at this crazy angle, and I have work." She quickened her pace. Okay. He raised his hands in surrender, but she could hear the smile in his voice. "But you should take a break sometime. All work and no play makes Jessica a dull. What's the Zalthari equivalent of girl?" "There isn't one. Gender expressions don't translate simply." She reached her office door, hoping he'd take the hint. He didn't. "Hey, before you disappear, we're having a cultural exchange dinner tonight. Captain's orders. Everyone has to bring something from their homeworld and share stories." "You in?" Every fiber of her being wanted to refuse, sitting in a room full of people, having them look at her, see her deformities under bright lights. "It's mandatory," Jack added apologetically. "Captain's really pushing this whole we're one crew thing." Jessica's crest drooped further. "What time?" 1900 hours. Mess hall. His smile brightened. "It'll be fun, I promise. I'm making something called pizza. Apparently it's humanity's greatest achievement before warp drive." Despite herself, Jessica felt her mandibles twitch, the Zalthari equivalent of a suppressed smile. "That seems unlikely. You'd be surprised what we prioritize." He gave her a casual wave and continued down the corridor, somehow making the sterile spaceship feel warmer just by passing through. The mess hall was crowded and loud. Jessica stood in the doorway, clutching her container of veshka, a traditional Zalthari grain dish. It was the only thing she knew how to make, taught by her mother before Jessica had been quietly encouraged to leave their district. "Jessica, over here." Jack waved from a table, and before she could escape, he was weaving through the crowd toward her. "Come on, you can sit with me and Chen. You know Chen, right?" "Engineering." She knew of Chen. Everyone knew Chen. The human engineer had fixed a problem with the quantum drive that had stumped 3 Krellian masters. Jack guided her to the table with a gentle hand on her shoulder. Humans were so tactile, always touching. And soon she was seated between him and the legendary Chen, who greeted her with a simple nod and continued eating something that looked disturbingly like synthetic protein cubes. The evening progressed in a blur of foods and stories. The Krellians shared their crystalline honey. The Vorath delegation presented dried meats from their hunting traditions, and Jack's pizza was indeed surprisingly good, though Jessica couldn't understand why he'd put so many different foods on one flatbread. "Your turn." "Jessica," Jack said, nudging her gently. "Tell us about the veshka." All eyes turned to her. Under the bright mess hall lights, she felt every flaw illuminated. The conversation around them dimmed as people waited. "It's simple food," she managed. "Common. Nothing special." "Everything's special if you care about it," Jack said quietly. "Why'd you choose this one?" "Because it's all I know how to make," she thought. "Because my mother made it for me when I was small, before she understood I would grow up ugly." Before the disappointment set in, "It was my mother's recipe," she said instead. That makes it special. Jack smiled and took a serving. Others followed, and Jessica felt something unfamiliar, a warmth that wasn't embarrassment. As the dinner wound down, Jessica helped Jack clean up. They worked in comfortable silence until Jack suddenly stopped, holding a half-empty tray, and just looked at her. Jessica immediately turned her face away. "What?" "I just realized something," Jack said slowly. "Has anyone ever told you that you're beautiful?" Jessica froze. The tray in her hands trembled. Was he mocking her? Humans had strange humor, but this seemed cruel. "I know Zalthari can change color with emotion," Jack continued, oblivious to her shock, "but I've never seen anyone with scales like yours. They're like opals, the way they catch the light. And your eyes are incredible. We have a gemstone on Earth, Amber. That's basically fossilized tree resin from millions of years ago. Your eyes are exactly that color. Where I'm from, people pay fortunes for jewelry that color." He was serious. His expression was open, honest, completely without guile. "My scales are too pale," Jessica heard herself say. "My crest is malformed. I am considered defective among my people." Jack's eyebrows rose. "Defective? Jessica, you're stunning. I figured you knew. I figured that was just how Zalthari women looked, and I was over here thinking you were one of the most beautiful beings I'd ever met." Beautiful. The word echoed in her mind, in Jack's accent, in his language, in a voice that held no lies. "You're not mocking me." Her voice was barely a whisper. "What? No! Jessica, Jack set down his tray and faced her fully. "Beauty isn't universal. What Zalthari find attractive isn't what humans find attractive, and that's not even getting into the Vorath or the Krellians. I'm sorry your people made you feel like you weren't enough. But from where I'm standing, you're remarkable." Jessica's crest lifted slightly for the first time in years. Her scales shifted, warming to a soft lavender, the Zalthari color for hope. "Thank you," she managed, the words inadequate for the earthquake happening inside her chest. Jack grinned, that easy human smile that lit up his whole face. "Anytime. Now come on. Chen saved us some of that Krellian honey. And I want to try it on pizza." "That sounds disgusting. Only one way to find out." As Jessica followed Jack back to the table, she caught her reflection in the polished metal wall. For the first time in her life, she didn't immediately look away. Instead, she saw what Jack saw, opalescent scales that shimmered, unique eyes that held ancient earth sunlight, a crest that was distinctly her own. Maybe, just maybe, she was beautiful after all. Just not by the standards she'd been taught to measure herself against, and perhaps that was the most human lesson of all.